It's morning again in America. Today, more men and women will go to work than ever before in our country's history.
By 1984, Ronald Reagan is building his shining city on the hill. When he was elected 4 years earlier, he made a promise.
I, Ronald Reagan, do solemnly swear
to shake off the hangover of the 70s and make America great again, starting with the economy.
He believed that the conservative revolution he was bringing in was not just a revolution for the wealthy, but was a revolution for Americans.
Starting about 1984, inflation came down, unemployment came down, and we began to see growth.
Under the leadership of President Reagan, our country is prouder and stronger and better.
And the summer of 1984 provides Reagan with the perfect springboard for re-election.
The 1984 Olympics was this incredible celebration. It was this reason to almost rub it into the world's face and also tell ourselves that we were on the upsurge again.
3 months later, Reagan wins more electoral votes than any president in history.
I'm gonna do it just one more time. You ain't seen nothing yet.
Reagan promises not just an economic revival, but a moral one as well.
Sometimes seems the allure of the permissive society requires superhuman feats of self-control. But the call of the future is too strong.
When you listen to Ronald Reagan, what he is essentially saying in so many different ways is we have to go back to a time before the 1960s ruined America.
Americans, in a state of culture shock since the hippies started splashing around naked in public, want normalcy. As they define it, restored.
Just the general sense that the 1960s, everything became transgressive until there was no standard left to transgress.
Ronald Reagan believes to secure America's future, you need to rediscover the past. Turning the clock back is the way forward. And coincidentally, Hollywood produces a movie that does just that. Back to the Future takes the audience back to an idealized 1950s America of mom and apple pie.
Why do you look so familiar to me? Do I know your mother?
Yeah, I think maybe you do.
What made it work was that it was about generations, and you could relate to the characters, and you relate to their emotions and their aspirations and their disappointments and their frustrations on every generational level.
Geez, you smoke too?
Marty, you're beginning to sound just like my mother.
Art, storytelling, it's always a product of the time. Back to the Future gave us the wonderful opportunity to contrast the 50s with the 80s.
All right, give me a Pepsi free. You want a Pepsi, pal? You're gonna pay for it.
Could juxtapose certain 50s values with certain 80s values.
This conveniently left the 60s and the 70s out of the cultural equation.
You'd have the 60s with the hippies, you'd have the messiness of the 70s, and the country somehow wanted to feel clean and fresh and new.
I'm George McFly. I'm your density. I mean, your destiny.
The movie even brought a smile to the White House.
Reagan saw the movie and he absolutely loved it.
Tell me, future boy, who's president of the United States in 1985?
Ronald Reagan.
Ronald Reagan, the actor?
The actor? It kind of reminded the audience that it was kind of crazy.
He laughed so hard at that joke that he had the White House projectionist stop the movie, back it up, so that he could see it again.
Portable television studio. No wonder your president has to be an actor. He's got to look good on television.
Never one to miss a connection with his audience, Reagan name-checks the film in his 1986 State of the Union address.
As they said in the film, Back to the Future, where we're going, we don't need
roads.
Reagan was kind of touting this idea of family values. And so I do think that there is a political element to Back to the Future and its success.
I don't know how serious.
Reagan's shining city on the hill looks very much like a 1950s Main Street. with all the traditional values that go with it.
We're seeing rededication to bedrock values of faith, family, work, neighborhood, peace, and freedom. Values that help bring us together as one people.
Ronald Reagan's position can be put this way. I do not want to go back to the past. I want to go back to the past's way of facing the future, with a spring in your step.
The future was looking so rosy for the Reagan presidency in the mid-1980s, it was easy to forget the event that almost killed that vision, along with the man himself.